Welcome back. Stasa23 here, back again with some knife therapy for you. And one of my subscribers asked me the question if I had to choose between the Bestech Goblin, which is this guy, and the Viper Lille, which is this guy, which one would I choose? So after lots of thinking and carrying these guys for a good little while, I took down some notes and this is what I come up with. So let's dive into it with the specs real quick. Like, the Goblin has an overall length of 5.75 inches with a handle of 3.75 inches and a grip area of 2.5 inches. It's got a nice slim package that comes in at 0.47 inches thick and closed at the thickest portion is 1.47 inches wide. So very nice and sleek, slender, great EDC, I call backup blade. Due to some nice milled out pockets, you can see one there, and you got one up top right here. They were able to keep this guy nice and light, especially with the carbon fiber. Even with this titanium backspacer, you're coming in at 2.58 ounces, so nice and lightweight. I hardly ever notice this is in the pocket. And this guy right here, specs on it, you have an overall length of 6.25 inches, so a half inch longer than the Goblin in overall length. You have a handle of 3.75 inches, grip area of 3 inches, and the thickness of this guy from here to here is 0.44 inches thick. And in your closed position, the widest portion, it is 1.21 inches wide, which is nice. It's a nice slender package in this dimension and this dimension. The weight on this guy is 2.90 ounces, and they were able to achieve this weight not by milling out any pockets, so because I can show you there, they have no internal milling on the titanium, but you do have some milling on the outside. That's going to save a little bit of weight, but the overall thickness of the tie slabs is a good bit thinner than the Goblin. So there you go. So let's dive into each little facet about the knife and kind of see which one I think is better in those categories. Let's start off with the overall look and design of the knives. With the Goblin, I think it's very visually appealing. At first, it took me a little time to warm up to the design because this is what I was looking for. I was looking for an upgraded version of this guy, so this one had to fit that bill for me. But you have, let's kind of dive into it. You have that two-tone finish with your satin and your stone washed flats. That's just a nice added touch. You have this nice inlaid carbon fiber, very beautiful, shimmers in the light. It's a satin finish on there, and has absolutely no voids whatsoever, so some high quality stuff. Along with that, your titanium frame has got a nice consistent bronze, like a deep bronze all the way around, nice and uniformed. And you can see the little splotches, that's from the oils on my hands. And then you also have these nice little milled sections that kind of aid and grip a little bit and give an aesthetic appeal. And you have this nice titanium backspacer, just some added touches. So this one definitely has some visual attraction. Let's go into the Lille. And obviously I found this one aesthetically pleasing, or I wouldn't have bought it. And you have a attractive satin finish. They do a good job on their satin, nice and reflective. But theirs is all, like, the whole entire thing is one finish on there, which is the satin. Let's see. Something that Viper does very well is, you see, you have that nice crown spine, which to me, a crown spine gives it that classy, high-end look. And they do an excellent job of rounding that off, nice and soft to the touch. Um, let's see, make sure. Then you come back to the handle scales. You have these nice milled lines for some traction, some grip there. And you have this overlay of a flat piece of titanium that they anodized bronze just to give it an added flare of color. I think they did a good job on that as well. They mimicked it on this side, and also matched the pocket clip with that bronze color as well. So as far as aesthetics, I say that they're a tie in my eyes. Now, you know, it's all going to depend on the person and what you like. So let's go into how these guys perform for me. And we'll start off with the Goblin like we did the last time. This guy is rocking CPM S35 VN steel, which is definitely a good to go steel, and Bestech seems to do a good job on their heat treat because I had no issues with it whatsoever. Held an edge for a good amount of time, and very easily was I able to strop it. You have this somewhat of a modified, I guess you call it sheep's foot worn Cliffy blade, that is going to be a great in utility as an EDC knife. This for me is great for what I typically use an EDC knife, unless I'm testing, you know, just normal opening boxes. You got that nice piercing tip right there. You have this nice straight area. You can poke inside of a box, pull it down, break down your boxes. You know, pretty much all the normal tasks that everybody normally does on day to day. This knife is going to handle it really well. And then you also have this almost full flat grind blade, about, I call it 3/4 up the way of the blade. And they kept it decently thin behind the edge, which I like to see, because when you have a nice and small backup blade like this, I don't want to see 5mm stock and 30 thousandths behind the edge. It just doesn't make sense to me. You know, it's a knife. It should be made to cut, not to pry. They have some nice, very functional jimping up here. I like the way they cut it. It's nice and spaced out, so when you bear down there, it definitely grabs the meat of your thumb, and it doesn't hurt. It gives you good traction. And you got this nicely done forward finger choil that locks you in very nicely. So whenever I was wanting to put a little bit more pressure behind my cuts, this grip right here, pinching it like that, then these fingers just kind of falling back, I was able to get some nice precise work. I could get some nice precise cutting. And when I needed to push through a heavy cardboard or something like that, I felt comfortable doing it with this knife. So let's go into the Lille. The Lille is supporting Bowler M390 steel, so it's a little bit more of a premium. It's a super steel. It's a little bit better than S35 VN, but at the same time, it is a little bit harder to sharpen than S35 VN. They both have great corrosion resistance. M390 is probably one of my favorite overall steels. It holds an exceptional edge, especially when it's heat treated right, and it keeps that edge for a good while. Through my testing with this guy, it held a pretty good edge. It kind of seemed like their M390 was ran a little bit softer than I'm normally used to, but even saying that, it still held an edge for a good bit of time. On this one, you have this drop point with the belly for days. I mean, that's pretty much all belly. You have a small piece of flat right there, but I mean, really, this way, it's pretty much a consistent angle going all the way down, which this type of blade is great for skinning. I mean, if you were going to skin a deer or something like that, this would be an excellent option for that. But I don't think I ever use a folding knife to skin a wild game. So as far as EDC cutting task, I'm going to have to give I'm gonna have to give it to the Goblin. The utility in this blade shape far exceeds, for me, in my cutting, what the Viper Lille does. And the way they gave you a semi-choil that I don't think it's really intended for a forward finger choil. I mean, I got a small to medium sized hand, and you know, I got to be very careful. I mean, I can use it, but that edge is nice and sharp. I had to add that little sharpening choil in there. We'll talk about that later. But like I said, your day-to-day EDC task, I think this blade shape is going to be a lot better off for, you know, breaking down boxes and doing that type of stuff. Alrighty, let's jump into the deployment and action of these knives. Both of them have great actions on them. The detents are dialed in pretty nicely. The Goblin has a nice snappy action, really nice and snappy, nice and positive click when you open this guy. One thing I like about the Goblin, as you can see, it has this milled section. I call it the landing pad for your finger to land when you flip the knife. Just makes it comfortable for us knife nut fidgeters that are constantly sitting there flipping the knife. One thing though that I did notice, that this, even though once you start using it for a while, it'll come second nature, but in the beginning, there was a little bit of thought that had to go behind flipping this knife. And nothing that, you know, was crazy, you know, nothing that I didn't think I was going to be able to get the hang of it, but it wasn't as thoughtless as this one. The way they set up this flipper tab with this ramp that goes back here, I mean, you just basically put your finger there and pull back in the light switch method, and there's absolutely no thought at all whatsoever. Let's see. Both of the knives have nice functional jimping. If my camera wants to focus, nice functional jimping behind the flipper tab. There you go. You also have a flat spot up there if you want to do the push button. But for me, the easiest method is light switch. It works fine pretty much every single time. I didn't have any problems with slipping or not fully engaging the blade. And we'll get into the disengagement of the lock bar. On this guy, they did a great job of putting this milled area spot for you, and they give a good cutout right there, so it's very easy to get your thumb in there to disengage that lock bar. But this may just be me, but being that you have this slim handle, and let me show you what I'm talking about, and you got this thicker handle on this guy, whenever I go to disengage the lock bar, I got my fingers on the edge of that frame, so whenever I push off, I don't feel like it's going to slide out of my hands. I got good control of it that way. On this guy, once again, it took a little bit more practice because you got such a slim handle, so I kind of felt myself having to hold it like that, and it just kind of feels awkward to me whenever you're disengaging that lock. I had to make sure I have it nice and sturdy in my hands, kind of wrapped around my finger right there. And once like I said on the flipping, once I got the hang of it, it became second nature. But if I'm gonna be rating the lock disengagement, ease of use, I would say it goes to the Lille. But as far as comfort, the Lille it's a thinner spot right there, so it's not sharp, but it's not as comfortable as the thicker slabs with this nice flat portion right there. So comfort goes to the Goblin, and security goes to the Lille. I definitely don't feel like this one's going to come out of my hand when I'm disengaging the lock bar. So I'd say, being that they both have good attributes and bad, I'd say we give that a tie on those two. So let's jump into the ergonomics of these guys. So let's put this guy aside. For the Goblin, if you're using that forward finger choil like it's intended for, as you can see, you got these two fingers, you're pinching, you're putting pressure, you have a good grip right here. this finger kind of wraps around here, and these two go into place. So with that forward finger choil, the ergonomics are really, really nice, especially for the type of cutting you should be doing. You're not going to be doing no super crazy cutting with a knife this size, but in this grip, excellent, excellent. You can do this type of grip, but it's not comfortable because of the tab sticking you. And if you do this craziness, you can get the same, you can get a great grip that way too, but yeah, I'd never be doing that. So ergonomics are really, really nice when you're choking up into that forward finger choil. Back here, being that it tapers down so slim, I don't feel like I have enough control. I mean, I could cut some string off of a shirt or something like that, but if I have to like pry down, I don't feel comfortable enough with it in my hand like this, so I would definitely choke up. Now, getting into the Lille, I have a medium to small hand, and with this nice flare right here, it kind of reminds me of the way the Strider PT is. See how it's got this slimmer choil area right here, and it flares out toward the end. You just don't have this slant right there. And it kind of feels the same way in hand as well as a Strider PT. But as you can see with my medium to small hands, I just have a comfortable 4-finger grip. So if you have large hands, this knife is probably not going to be for you. And something I wish they would have done better is this forward finger choil, because I don't feel comfortable putting my finger up here, especially now. This sucker is super duper sharp, and I don't even think it was intended as a forward finger choil. So if I'm going to have to go on ergonomics with using this forward finger choil, I'm going to have to go with the Goblin. All right, next, let's see. How did it carry, and how did it feel in pocket? Let's check it out in simulated pockets. You got your curved pocket right here. If I can get that in there. Curved pocket. You got a good bit of, even though it's not a deep carry clip, I think you have enough of the knife in the pocket, and you still have your space for your lanyard to hang on and to be able to get to it. And it leaves perfect amount to be able to get it in and out of the pocket. And let's see, check it out in the flat pocket. And as you see, I don't even have to lift up on that. It does a great job. It goes all the way down, and in your flat pocket, it disappears even more. I think this is a perfectly done or perfectly executed non-deep carry clip in my eyes. Now, when it comes to the Lille, this is a huge, huge letdown for me. Let's just check it out. Of course, it has a deep carry clip, but besides with that deep carry clip, you also have, you don't have that body screw isn't flush, so you could catch it on your pants material. As you can see, you have no real lift to get it there, so I got to kind of tightly push down, and wants to do that. Even when I lift up on this, see how there's no space. I mean, that's like a Browse Blades clip. There's hardly no space, and the only reason there is space right now is because it's lifted up on this pocket. I got to jam it down in there, and okay, it's in there, but whenever I try to get this guy out, it's a pain in the butt. Thank God they put this smooth titanium right there for it to glide in and out, because it would be an absolute fail. Now, it does say that, I saw it on the website, says that you can flip this clip, but with this curve, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I don't think it would work, but they say you can do it tip up, left or right-handed. I'll just take their word, I guess. So as far as how it carries, definitely by a long shot, I'm going to have to give the win to the Goblin on that one. And let's go to the final thing. Let's talk about the quality, the QC of these two guys, and the QC on the company as a whole. Let's start off on the Goblin. Talk about some of my gripes with the Goblin, that as far as the QC problems. First off, this guy has a free spinning pivot, but I have talked to some of the representatives at Bestech, and as soon as they possibly can in newer production of any of the models, they are going to start putting in D-shaped or captured pivots, which is awesome, especially knowing that they listen to their customers. Even though it has a free spinning pivot, they didn't have Loctite on here, so I was able to take this guy apart. Also, I noticed, and I could probably show it to you. See how you got that on the spine? You have this chamfer right here. Well, it fades off and it stops right there. And I'm guessing it's because it gets thinner right there. Look right there. Well, up here in this area, it's not sharp to where I'm going to cut myself, but I almost feel like I could strike a ferro rod right there. That's something else that that me and a bunch of other people have talked to them about, and they definitely are going to address that as well. So another cool thing. And besides that, everything else on this knife is solid. Well done, well executed. You got no play, up or down, left or right, super solid. And even better, Bestech has a US and European warranty rep, and I've heard lots of good things. They will take care of you if you have something wrong and it's their fault. They'll replace the knife for you. So it's good to know that you have somebody local, that I'm not having to send this knife to China to get them to decide whether they can fix it or not. That's a huge plus in my eyes. So let's get into the Lille. The Lille came off centered pretty much like this. I was able to get it back centered, but the action was terrible. So in order to have the action that I want, this is pretty much where this bad boy is going to stay, and I'm okay with that. But definitely something to note. Also, this guy has a free spinning pivot, but you do have, a matching pivot on that side, so you can use, two different, I think these were T10s to to open this guy up. But I will say they had this thing drenched in blue Loctite, and even with the bigger pivot heads on there and two different drivers, it was hard to break that free. I use heat, I use all kinds of stuff. That's just ugly. Also, the lack of a sharpening choil and a wonky edge termination. I had to add that sharpening choil notch in there to keep from having an ugly recurve in this blade. We don't need any more curves in this blade than they have already. They don't have a lock bar, steel lock bar insert in here, which this knife does have lock stick, and it's not that bad right now because I have some permanent marker in there to kind of make it a little bit better. So that's not that great, especially nowadays. It seems like every knife has them. This was another huge bummer for me. It came with detent slop to where I could wiggle the blade up and down. And as you can see, after tons of fine tune adjusting, I've almost gotten rid of it. Let's see. You got that little bit, which still bugs the crap out of me, but I can live with it. But just not cool. So the two things that completely are a huge turn off for me is, one, the biggest one was the detent slop. Two, the off-centered blade, and this totally terrible pocket clip. So let's go. Let's go back and kind of recap. You had tons of good things about both of them. You got, to me, a lot more functionality in this blade shape. You got nice ergos, S35 VNs, a nice solid steel. It's definitely gonna last you a while, especially in a small backup blade for your EDC task. You have nice attractive looks with the carbon fiber and the bronze titanium. Decently thin behind the edge. I think it's like 23 thousandths behind the edge, so it's nice. Blade stock, it's a little bit thicker than I'd like, but like I said, full flat grind, so it's a gradual increase. You got some nice mill pockets in there to save on weight. It's comfortable to disengage that lock bar. Pocket clip works amazing. And the action on this guy is stellar, and you have this nice tab, flipper tab. This guy, I love the looks of it. You got intricate milling, you got this nice accent right there. Very easy, no thought whatsoever to flip this guy, and the light switch. You definitely have multiple opening methods. I can spidey flick it, I can slow roll it, and I can flip it out with my thumb. So this thing has a lot of good stuff going for it as well. It has my favorite blade steel, which is Bowler M390. Ergonomics are good when you're holding it back here, but would be only good for a medium to small hand. So my final thoughts. Well, after using these extensively, I'm gonna have to say hands down the Bestech Goblin. If you want to take a risk, then you can go with the Viper Lille. To me, at that price, at the $170 and the $158, you're competing with this guy right here. So I definitely don't think these prices are way out of line, because you're competing with this one that's more expensive than these two. This one that's way more expensive than these two. This guy that's way more expensive. This guy that is way more expensive. So, the prices aren't completely out of line compared to the competition out there. But, I want to have, a knife that I like almost everything about, and that would be this Bestech Goblin. Let me know what you think. If you own both of these knives or one of them, let me know what you think about them. I've been thoroughly enjoying this guy right here. It carries nicely, super nice action. And I still like this guy as well, but the detent slop, off-centered blade, the pocket clip, those things, those really bug me. I don't carry it as much as I do this guy right here. You do have more premium blade steel, but like I said, just because it has more premium blade steel doesn't mean it's going to automatically be better than this knife. No, it's got to be form and function, not just one. So let me know if y'all like this type of video. I know it's super long. I know some people hate those type of videos. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about either knife, let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Make sure to like, share, and have a good one. Peace.